Hello, hello, y'all. It's Mrs. Matson. Let's multiply some fractions today. Today I'm going to teach you a trick to making multiplying fractions a little bit easier. I like to call it the butterfly method. So let's get into it. How do we multiply fractions? Well, if they are mixed numbers, then you'll need to turn them into improper fractions. So if you see like a 3.5, you can't really multiply that. You've got to change that to 7/2. Remember, by going around the world. So change all fractions, all mixed numbers into improper fractions. I'm going to show you how to simplify. It's called the butterfly method. You can call it whatever you want, but that's what I call it. Multiply straight across and then change it back to a mixed number when you get your final answer, because no fraction wants to be left improper. So let's go over one way that you could do it. You could just multiply straight across. Like if you just skip the butterfly method, then it would be 2/6, correct? But then you still need to make sure that you simplify it. And 2 and 6 have 2 as a common factor. You get 1/3. Okay, so that's one way, and that's a great way, and that's fine. You end up with the right answer. But there's a trick so you can eliminate this step right there. And the trick is to kind of make a butterfly like that and look diagonally to see if you can cross simplify. So what I mean by that, if I'm looking here at 1 and 3, if 1 and 3 were in a birthday cake, would they have a common factor? No. So we're not going to do anything with the 1 and 3. However, if we look at the 2 and the 2, if those two were in a birthday cake, what could we pull out? Well, they both have 2 in common, don't they? 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 1 is 2. So what that means with this fraction is we can actually kind of simplify it before we even get to that stage at the end where your final step used to be simplify the fraction, but we're going to kind of simplify the fraction at the beginning so we don't have to worry about it later. So the 2 and the 2 become a 1 and a 1. So we now have 1 times 1 equals 1. And then we have 1 times 3 equals 3. So our answer is 1/3 as well, which is what we had earlier by simplifying at the end. Now we just kind of simplified to begin with. Let's do a bigger problem so you can kind of see. Here we have 6/25 times 5/3. Now we could multiply this straight across and get 30/75, which is kind of big and ugly, right? One reason why I like simplifying to begin with is it will simplify these bigger numbers. And so then when it's time to multiply straight across, you often have smaller numbers. So here we have 25 and 5. If 25 and 5 were in a birthday cake and we were looking for a common factor, would we have a common factor? We would. We'd have 5. That would leave us with 5 and 1. So now I get to change the 5 to a 1 because 5 divided by 5 is 1. And I get to change the 25 into a 5 because 25 divided by 5 is 5. So then I'm going to look crosswise the other direction with the 6 and 3. If 6 and 3 were in a birthday cake, we could pull out a 3, couldn't we? They have 3 as a common factor. 6 would become a 2, and the 3 would become a 1. So I actually get to cross simplify. That's usually what I end up calling it, is cross simplify. I don't often say butterfly, but you can if that's cool for you. I usually, cross simplify, butterfly, same thing. The 6 will become a 2, and the 3 will become a 1. If you want, you can rewrite this, or you can just kind of make sure that you cross out the numbers really well so you don't accidentally use them, and make sure you focus, make sure you focus on the numbers, the new simplified numbers. So I end up with 2 times 1. Oh, see, I even didn't do it there. That should have been 1/1, huh? What? So be careful. All right, 2 times 1 is 2. 5 times 1 is 5. So it ends up being 2/5, which if we want to look, let's clear this page for a minute. If we want to look and do it just this way, we would have ended up with 30/75. And if 30 and 75 were in a birthday cake, I know I could get rid of 5, right? That would give me 3 and 15. No. Yeah, 15 times 5 is 75. Yeah. So I would have ended up with, oh, and then I could get rid of a 3, and that'd give me 2 and 5. I would have ended up with 2/5. But do you see I ended up working with a lot bigger numbers than before when all I had to work with was like 5s and 1s and 2s. So that's why I like cross simplifying. Now, what if you have a whole number? Well, let's talk about it some more in visible math. Every whole number can be written as a fraction. There's always a denominator of 1 underneath every whole number. It's just that we get bored and lazy. I combined bored and lazy. And we just don't put that whole number as a fraction. But there is a fraction with every whole number. You just put it over 1. So then what we have here is 5/1 times 9/10. And if we cross simplify, we can simplify the 5 and the 10. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Then when I go straight across, I end up with 9 halves. Now this is where the step number 4, which was to put it back into a mixed number, comes into play. Because you are not going to leave this number 2 cheerleader holding up a big heavy number 9 cheerleader. That's just not a nice thing to do. So we're going to tip it over and divide so that we can make a mixed number. 9 will go into 2 4 times, and I'll get a remainder of 1. So this 4 becomes my whole number, and this 1 that's left over, and the 2 is my denominator. So we get 4.5 as a final answer. When are you going to multiply fractions, right? I like answering that question when I can so that you can kind of be like, okay, there is a purpose for me doing this. And I would like to say if you like cookies or if you like cooking in any way or like to eat and not starve to death, you're probably going to work with fractions because most recipes, you don't need a whole cup of something often. You often need something less than a full cup. So you're going to need a half a cup or a third of a cup. Or if you love cookies and you want a lot, well, then you might want to double a recipe. If you double a recipe, that means you need to times all of this by 2. And that means I'm going to be timesing 3/4 by 2, right? Or 2.5, 2 1/4 by 2. So that's often, or maybe you don't want to double or even make it just a whole batch because you'll eat it all and you'll get sick to your tummy. So maybe you just want to half everything and you just want to cut everything in half so you don't make quite so much. Well, then again, you're going to be taking a mixed number times a fraction. So there's one instance in your life where you are going to be dealing with fractions. Another time is when you don't need like a whole entire amount of something. Maybe you only need a half of something, or maybe you only need like 2/3 of something. You're going to see in your story problems today is a keyword for multiplying. If I have 2 cups of sugar and I only want a half of it, well, then I'm going to times by half. Then what I get is, ooh, I get 1 whole, which totally makes sense, right? What's half of 2? Well, it's 1. So think about timesing when you're dealing with fractions and you only need a fraction of an amount. Okay, so last one in your notes. Let's do a mixed number. Remember, we need to go change this to an improper fraction, and we do that by going around the world. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and then keep your denominator the same. So 5 halves times 3/4. If I try to cross simplify, 5 and 4 don't share a common factor, and neither do 3 and 2. So the cross simplifying doesn't always work. If it doesn't work, that probably means that your final answer right here won't need to be simplified. It will already be in simplest form. Let's see if that's the case. 5 times 3 is 15. 2 times 4 is 8. Yeah, if I put 15 and 8, they do not have a common factor. So I can't simplify it, but what I am going to do is I'm going to relieve little cheerleader 8 there from having to hold up number 15, right? So I'm going to tip that over. 15 will go into 8 just one time, leaving me with a remainder of 7. So that mixed number will be 1 whole and 7 left over of 8. So 1 and 7/8 is the same as taking 3/4 of 2 1/2. There we go. All right, you now know how to multiply mixed numbers. Good luck on your practice and have fun.